For the first time since 2004, Chelsea Football Club will go into the new season with a new manager at the helm. Jose Mourinho was sacked in September 2007 and Avram Grant would take charge for the rest of the season. The Israeli failed to deliver a trophy as Chelsea lost 2-1 to Tottenham in the League Cup final. The Blues lost to Barnsley in an FA Cup upset and the Premier League title went to the wire, but Man United just edged the Blues to the title. Avram Grant took Chelsea to the Champions League final for the first time in their history, and the Blues could not come any closer to European glory. The Red Devils would win it on penalties. A season to forget, no doubt. Avram Grant was sacked, and Roman Abramovich turned to Portugal manager Luis Felipe Scolari. Brazilian Scolari joined Chelsea on the 1st of July 2008 as he would leave the position as Portugal manager after Euro 2008. Known as Big Phil Scolari, he is best known for winning the World Cup as Brazil manager in 2002 and taking Portugal to the final of Euro 2004, where Greece caused a massive upset. Scolari also knocked out England 3 tournaments in a row, twice on penalties, so he was not a complete stranger to English football despite never managing in England. Scolari became the first World Cup winning manager to manage in the Premier League. He certainly fit Roman Abramovich's criteria, as Chelsea's owner wanted more attacking and attractive football at Stamford Bridge.
When Jose Mourinho arrived here, he described himself as a special one. Are you a special one?
Yes. I am special. Sorry. I am special for my friends, for my family, for my country.
Chelsea would have an even more quiet transfer window than the year before. The only acquisitions of the summer was right-back Jose Buswinga from Porto, who had agreed before the Moscow final to become a Chelsea player. The Blues would do business with Barcelona for the 3rd season running. Midfielder Deco was Chelsea's new number 20, both Portuguese players who were known to Scolari as he had managed them as Portugal manager. In a somewhat surprising transfer, another Portuguese player was signed. Young and promising Fabio Payne from Sporting Lisbon was signed on loan. He was looking to make a breakthrough in his career at the Bridge. It would not be a Chelsea summer without speculations and sagas. The Blues seemed to be sure to secure the signing of Real Madrid's Robinho, but the Brazilian ended up at Manchester City in a bizarre twist of events on transfer deadline day. This was also the day Manchester City were taken over by the Abu Dhabi group. Chelsea were also linked with superstar Kaká, who won the 2007 Ballon d'Or, but the move would not materialise. There were quite a few outgoings at Stamford Bridge. Sidwell and Tal Ben-Haim would leave after just a year, signing for Aston Villa and Manchester City respectively. Carly Boularus, who spent the season on loan at Seville the season prior, joined Stuttgart on a permanent transfer. Hernan Crespo moved on and signed for Inter Milan on a permanent basis. Sean Wright-Phillips returned to Manchester City. Shevchenko would also return to his former club. He would go out on loan to AC Milan to find his old goal-scoring form after having a difficult couple of years in London. Another striker that would leave on loan to his former club was Claudio Pizarro, who would join Werder Bremen. The most notable exit was Claude Makelele, who signed for PSG. Makelele was a truly outstanding player, and to this day many pundits call the defensive midfielder position as the Makelele role. His replacement would definitely have big boots to fill. Chelsea would have a good pre-season, most notably a 5-0 win over AC Milan, with Lampard and Nicolas Anelka scoring 4 against the Italian side, excited many and big things were expected. Chelsea would usually kick off the season in the Community Shield final, but it was not the case this time as the Blues would have a trophyless season the season prior for the first time since 2003-2004. The season would start at home to FA Cup holders Portsmouth, who frustrated Manchester United and held them to a goalless draw in 90 minutes, but would lose on penalties in the Community Shield final the week prior. It looked like Chelsea would have a tricky start and have have their work cut out, but this was not the case this afternoon as the Scolari era got off to the perfect start as Chelsea won 4-0 thanks to goals from Joe Cole, Nicolas Anelka, Frank Lampard and new signing Deco, who scored a great goal on his debut. A superb performance and result from Chelsea that day. A 1-0 win at Wigan, Deco making it 2-2 with a superb free kick made it 6 points out of 6. Tottenham would be up next and they managed to secure a rare point at Stamford Bridge as Darren Bent cancelled out Giuliano Belletti's goal. Chelsea were top at the end of August and Deco was named Player of the Month. After the international break, Chelsea would travel to newly owned Manchester City. Robinho, of all people, would score a free kick on his debut, but the Blues would spoil the party as Carvalho equalised just 3 minutes later. Frank Lampard and Nicolas Anelka wrapped up the win in the second half. The Champions League campaign kicked off as Roma, Cluj and Bordeaux would join Chelsea in Group A. It was a comfortable 4-0 win on matchday 1 in the Champions League over Bordeaux. The following Sunday, Manchester United would travel to Stamford Bridge in arguably the biggest test of Scolari's reign. It was the first meeting between the sides since the Champions League final and it would be honours even as Ji-sung Park put the Red Devils ahead, but substitute Salomon Kalou made sure the points would be shared. Chelsea would then announce the signing of free agent Brazilian defensive midfielder Mineiro. Michael Essien would suffer a serious injury for his country during the international break and an experienced player was needed. A familiar face would also return to Chelsea. Club legend Ray Wilkins would replace Steve Clarke as assistant manager as the Scotsman went east to join Chelsea legend Gianfranco Zola at West Ham to be his assistant. This was Wilkins' second spell as assistant manager at Chelsea. The Blues then thrashed Portsmouth 4-0 once again, this time at Fratton Park in the Carling Cup. A double from Lampard and goals from Malouda and Kalou kept a 48-year unbeaten record against Portsmouth intact. Branislav Ivanovic finally made his debut for the club. Despite signing 8 months earlier, he would not appear under Avram Grant due to fitness issues, but the Serbian would impress on his debut. Chelsea kept up their 100% away record versus new boys Stoke City with a 2-0 win. Jose Busquets scored his first goal for the club and Anelka got on the score sheet again, ending the month top of the table. A disappointing goalless draw in Romania would follow as Cluj would hold Chelsea and Drogba would worryingly pick up an injury and the Ivorian would struggle to stay fit and stay in form in the coming months. But the Blues would bounce back, winning 3 games in a row without conceding. A 2-0 win versus Aston Villa. Middlesbrough were thrashed 5-0 at the Riverside and a massive 1-0 win over Roma in matchday 3 of the Champions League. On the 26th of October 2008, Chelsea's 86 league unbeaten record at Stamford Bridge would come to an end in the hands of Liverpool. Xabi Alonso's goal was enough to end the historic run. It was Chelsea's first Premier League defeat at Stamford Bridge since a 2-1 loss to Arsenal in February 2004. It left a very sour taste as Liverpool had inflicted Chelsea heartbreaking defeats over the years and they would once again earn bragging rights over the Blues. This run still stands as of the recording of this video. 2 impressive wins would follow after this. A 3-0 win at Hull, where Lampard scored a sublime goal, was followed by a 5-0 win at home to Sunderland, where Anelka scored a hat-trick, but Chelsea would lose in Rome 3-1 as Deco was sent off in a tough defeat to the Italian side. A 2-0 win at Blackburn would follow, where Chelsea returned top of the Premier League, but would then suffer a shock defeat in the Carling Cup as Burnley would win on penalties at Stamford Bridge as the Clarets held the Blues to a 1-1 draw. Drogba would get his first goal of the season, but Akinbayi would equalise in the second half. Burnley would go on to win 5-4 in a penalty shootout. Manchester United would win the League Cup that year, beating Tottenham 4-1 in a penalty shootout after a goalless draw in 90 minutes and extra time. Anelka would continue his fine goal-scoring form by getting a brace at West Brom after Busquets scored a brilliant opener as Scolari's side won 3-0 at the Hawthorns. Chelsea's form would be inconsistent. A goalless draw at home to Newcastle, a 1-1 draw in France against Bordeaux, and a bitter 2-1 loss at home to Arsenal would come in the next 3 games, as Chelsea ended November on a poor result, but still ended the month top of the table, and Nicolas Anelka winning Player of the Month. The month of December started with a 2-0 win at Bolton. Anelka got on the score sheet against his former team, and Deco scored a spectacular goal as Chelsea continued to show their brilliant league away form. The Blues did manage to secure their place in the last 16 of the Champions League with a 2-1 win over Cluj, but would have to settle for second place in the group. Chelsea would be drawn against Juventus in the last 16 tie. West Ham at home was up next for Chelsea as the fans gave a warm welcome to legend Gianfranco Zola as he returned to Stamford Bridge in the opposition dugout. It would be a frustrating afternoon as the Hammers held Chelsea. Craig Bellamy put the Irons 1-0 up, but in the second half, Nicolas Anelka would get his 100th goal in the Premier League and earned a point for the hosts. Chelsea would show tiredness and burnout and drop points away to Everton in a goalless draw at Goodison Park, ending the Blues' winning away run. A 2-0 win against West Brom on Boxing Day was then followed, and the year would end where it started, with a trip to neighbours Fulham at Craven Cottage, but this time it would end in a 2-2 draw. Clint Dempsey put Fulham 1-0 up before Lampard grabbed 2 in the second half, as Chelsea thought that was enough for a win. Clint Dempsey got the equaliser in the 90th minute to put a dent in Chelsea's title charge. The year of 2009 started extremely poorly for Chelsea. Southend at home would kick off the year, and many expected a comfortable win for the hosts. However, the magic of the FA Cup would show, as Southend would earn a replay at the death. Kalu put the Blues 1-0 up, but for the second game in a row, Chelsea would pay for many missed chances and concede late. Peter Clark equalised in the dying moments as the League One side would force a replay at their stadium, Roots Hall. A 3-0 defeat to champions Manchester United at Old Trafford would put pressure on Scolari as his future was being questioned. A pretty straightforward 4-1 win in the FA Cup replay at Southend came after the tough defeat to United, but a big blow would happen during this game. Joe Cole would pick up a knee injury, which would have him out for the rest of the season. This was somewhat familiar, as key players such as Drogba and Mark Essien suffered injury problems during the season, and now Joe Cole was out. Stoke at home would be up next, and the Potters looked to go on to secure a memorable win at the Bridge as Rory Delap put the new boys 1-0 up in the 60th minute, but Belletti would snatch an equaliser in the 88th minute, and Lampard, on his 400th appearance for the club, got the winner in the 93rd minute. As Stoke's hearts were broken as Chelsea showed character. 2 wins against Ipswich in the FA Cup and Middlesbrough in the league made it 4 wins in a row and ended January on a positive. During the transfer window, Chelsea would say goodbye to Wayne Bridge, who would go to Man City in a deal worth £12 million. Carlo Cudicini would say goodbye after nearly 10 years at the club. Chelsea's Player of the Year in 2001-2002, 216 appearances and a real fine keeper. He would go to Tottenham Hotspur on a free transfer. He was the only player to go from Chelsea to Tottenham in the whole Abramovich era. February started off miserably as Liverpool had done the league double over Chelsea. Torres scored 2 very late goals to pile on the misery in this title clash game. Lampard also received a very harsh red card, but this was later rescinded. Ricardo Quaresma would sign on loan from Inter Milan the following day as Chelsea needed attacking cover due to Joe Cole's injury. Quaresma came to Stamford Bridge as he was struggling with Inter Milan and would hope that a stint with his former Portugal manager Scolari would help revitalise his career. However, this would not be the case and the reunion would only last a week. On the 7th of February 2009, Chelsea would draw goalless at home to Hull City, and 2 days later, Roman Abramovich fired Phil Scolari. The Brazilian would leave the club after 7 months and a poor run of performances and results. Many fans and pundits agreed that Chelsea were burnt out and exhausted by Christmas. Scolari would confirm years later he had issues with handling Drogba and Anelka and how to accommodate both players. Many names were linked with the Chelsea job, but it was Guus Hiddink who would get the job on an interim basis. The Dutchman was managing the Russian national team at the time and would be managing both respectively until the end of the season. Hiddink had an impressive CV. His biggest achievement was leading PSV to European Cup glory in 1988, and he was hoping to lead Chelsea to a potential but hopeful treble. Assistant manager Ray Wilkins would take charge for the away FA Cup trip to Watford as Hiddink watched in the stands. Despite going 1-0 down in the 69th minute, Nicolas Anelka scored a hat-trick almost instantly to survive a scare. Hiddink's first game would be a tough away trip to Aston Villa, but Anelka continued his form and his goal was enough for a winning start for the Dutchman. Up next was Juventus at Stamford Bridge, where former manager Ranieri would be welcomed back as he was now in charge of the old lady. It would yet be another 1-0 win thanks to Didier Drogba's goal. 3 wins on the bounce followed this, where Chelsea secured their place in the semi-finals of the FA Cup after a 2-0 victory versus Coventry City. Michael Essien had returned in the lineup, making his first appearance of the season. The second leg in Turin would be up next for Chelsea. Vincenzo Iaquinta's goal would put the old lady 1-0 up. Chelsea would equalise right before half-time. Michael Essien would pounce off of Lampard's attempt that hit the crossbar. Del Piero's penalty put Juventus 2-1 up, but Drogba scored 9 minutes later to book Chelsea's place in the quarter-finals. The Ivorian was enjoying good form under Hiddink after a difficult season due to injuries and form. The Blues then closed the gap to Man United to 4 points that following Sunday after a 1-0 win over Man City at the Bridge. Michael Essien appeared to be back better than ever after his injury. He got the only goal that afternoon as it was now 8 wins in a row against Manchester City. Chelsea's title hopes would suffer a blow after Hiddink lost his first game away to Spurs. Man United slipped up away to Fulham and it was a good chance to close the gap. Both of these games were due to kick off at the same time at 3 o'clock, but due to a security scare, the Tottenham-Chelsea game was kicked off an hour later. Man United were 1-0 down by the time the match kicked off, but Luka Modric's goal was enough for Spurs as Chelsea had an extremely frustrating afternoon. Lampard and Malouda would spoil the party for Alan Shearer, who took charge of his first game as Newcastle interim manager at St James's Park, as the Blues would win 2-0. Old foes Liverpool would be once again in Chelsea's way to European glory. It was the 5th season in a row they faced each other in the Champions League and the 4th time in the knockout stages. It was a memorable night at Anfield, one of the best Champions League nights in Chelsea history as Chelsea won 3-1. Torres put the Reds ahead. Ivanovic scored his first goals for the club, grabbing 2 goals before Drogba got the third. A fantastic night, and this would really kick off Ivanovic's Chelsea career after a struggling start. That upcoming Saturday, Bolton Wanderers would visit Stamford Bridge. Ballack, 2 goals from Didier Drogba and Lampard would put Chelsea 4-0 up and it looked to be game over. However, Bolton nearly done the unthinkable and clawed back 3 goals in 8 minutes, but the Blues would hang on for a very lucky win. The second leg of the Champions League tie would be played 3 days later. Both sides were without their captains as John Terry was suspended and Steven Gerrard was injured. Liverpool would find themselves 2-0 up in the first half. Fabio Aurelio caught Petr Cech off guard and scored a free kick, and Xabi Alonso's penalty pulled the tie level. Pepe Reina should have done better as Drogba scored from Nicolas Anelka's cross. Alex scored a sensational free kick as he made it 2-2. Lampard put Chelsea 3-2 up from Drogba's pass. Lucas's deflected shot pulled it to 3-3, and Dirk Kuyt, who loved to score against Chelsea, made it 4-3, and the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge became tense and nervy, but Lampard in the 89th minute booked Chelsea's place in the semi-finals of the Champions League in this absolute classic. great week would be rounded off as Chelsea beat Arsenal in the semi-finals of the FA Cup at Wembley. Theo Walcott put the Gunners 1-0 up, Florent Malouda equalised not long after, and Drogba would haunt Arsenal once again as he got a late winner to send Chelsea to the final. It was the first FA Cup win over Arsenal since 1947, and the Blues would meet Everton in their next game, who had ended Manchester United's dream of an unprecedented quadruple and would meet Chelsea in the FA Cup final. This game would end as it did at Goodison Park, a goalless draw. A trip to Upton Park would be a 1-0 win, thanks to Solomon Kalou's goal and a Petr Cech penalty save. Rivals Barcelona would come up in the first leg of the semi-finals of the Champions League, a team to fear as they were regarded as the best team in the world at the time and had a fantastic team, being managed by Pep Guardiola in only his second season in management, having been promoted from Barcelona's B-team manager to their senior team. Drogba would come close in the first half, as did Ballack in the second. Cech pulled off a good save from Samuel Eto'o. Bojan had a golden chance to get Barcelona a late winner, but he would head over the bar. Chelsea made history that night as they were the first side to keep a clean sheet at the Nou Camp that season. A real tight contest and a very respectable performance and result from Chelsea, but missed out on a vital away goal. After a comfortable 3-1 win over neighbours Fulham in the Premier League, Chelsea faced Barcelona at Stamford Bridge on the 6th of May 2009. Manchester United were waiting in the final for the second season in a row, with Chelsea looking to gain revenge over Moscow. However, this game is arguably the most controversial game in Champions League history. Michael Essien's brilliant volley, which was voted Chelsea's goal of the season, put the Blues 1-0 up. Chelsea were denied a penalty after Dani Alves appeared to foul Florent Malouda in the box. A free kick was given instead. A pull on Drogba's shirt in the penalty box was also waved away. Eric Abidal was sent off for a foul on Anelka. A clear handball by Piqué in the box denied Chelsea another penalty. Andreas Iniesta scored a late equaliser in a devastating blow for Chelsea's bid to redemption. Ballack's shot would hit Eto'o's arm shortly after the goal, but no penalty. The full-time whistle blew and the Catalans would go through to the final and end up winning the final against Manchester United in Rome, winning 2-0 and securing a historic treble. The Chelsea players were absolutely furious at referee Tom Hennin-Overbo. Drogba would famously shout at the camera,
for getting himself into further trouble,
and had to be physically restrained. Drogba would be later banned for 6 European games, but after an appeal it was reduced to 3, and Jose Boswinga would be banned for 2 games after this was also appealed. It's widely agreed that Chelsea were unfairly disadvantaged by the questionable decisions made by the referee Tom Hennin-Overbo, who years later admitted he'd made mistakes in this game. He would continue to ref until 2013, but this game was not the only game where he made a controversial decision. In a 2010 last 16 first leg tie in a Fiorentina versus Bayern Munich game, Miroslav Klose was clearly offside, but he decided to award the goal to the fury of the Italians. This was the final straw, and he never refereed a Champions League game again. Chelsea, who were still hurt, would take out their anger out on Arsenal, winning 4-1 at the Emirates. The Gunners, like Chelsea, were coming off the back of a semi-final Champions League defeat. Goals from Alex, Nicolas Anelka and Florent Malouda and an own goal from Kolo Touré guaranteed Chelsea third place in the league with this fantastic win. The final game at Stamford Bridge of the 2008-2009 season would be up against Blackburn Rovers. Chelsea would win 2-0, Anelka and Malouda scoring once again in Guus Hiddink's final game at Stamford Bridge. The Chelsea fans sang "Guus Hiddink, we want you to stay" during the match and paid tribute to the Dutchman after doing such a fantastic job, and built a great relationship with the fans.
I'd like to thank all of you, the support you give to the team, and to me personally, thank you very much.
The Premier League season ended at Sunderland, who needed to better Newcastle's result in order to stay up. Anelka scored a great goal to put the Blues ahead. Kieran Richardson pulled level for the Black Cats, but Kalou put Chelsea back in the driving seat with a cracking goal. Ashley Cole got his only goal of the season, putting Chelsea 3-1 up before Kenwyne Jones pulled one back. Chelsea ended the season on 83 points, 3 points behind runners-up Liverpool and 7 behind once again champions Manchester United. Funnily enough, Chelsea and Manchester United ended this season on the exact same goals scored and goals conceded, but United were no doubt deserving champions as the Red Devils won the Premier League for the 11th time and equalled Liverpool's 18 top-flight titles at the time. Nicolas Anelka won the Golden Boot that season, finishing the season with 19 goals in the league and 25 altogether in a fantastic season for the Frenchman, a massive comeback after the heartache in Moscow a year prior. On the 30th of May 2009, Chelsea faced Everton in the FA Cup final. Everton were looking for their first trophy since winning the FA Cup in 1995, where Chelsea looked to end their difficult season on a high. Louis Saha gave David Moyes' men a dream start in just 25 seconds, the fastest goal scored in cup final history at the time, until the 2023 final, when Manchester City's Ilkay Gundogan scored after 13 seconds. Drogba would equalise just 20 minutes later, a fine header where the Ivorian scored his 6th cup final goal for the Blues. Frank Lampard scored with his weaker foot and hit the 20-goal mark for the club for the 4th season running. Malouda nearly got a third by hitting the bar, but Drogba and Lampard's goals were enough to secure Chelsea's 5th FA Cup. The season ended on a high for the club, despite the heartbreak in Europe. Hiddink left Chelsea with an FA Cup winners' medal and managed Chelsea for 22 games, winning 16, 5 draws and lost only once, doing a truly fantastic job and cementing himself as a legend of the club. He would return to his duties as Russian manager, and Chelsea would turn to two-time Champions League winning manager Carlo Ancelotti in the summer of 2009 to bring European glory to Stamford Bridge, which we will cover in my next video. Thank you as always for watching, and please take care.